Before smartphones and speed dial, there was the slow, steady turn of the rotary phone. The sound of the dial clicking back was the heartbeat of American communication. Rotary phones became a household staple in the mid-20th century. Heavy, durable, and often in black or beige, they connected families through a nationwide network of wires. To place a call, you rotated each number on the dial one at a time and waited for it to spin back. It was deliberate, almost ritualistic, and calling long distance often felt like an event. In the 1950s, the phone was more than a tool, it was a lifeline. Teenagers chatted for hours, parents coordinated social gatherings, and families shared news across states. The phone often sat in a central hallway or living room, where conversations were never private but always important. Children today might find it slow or clunky, but for those who grew up with rotary phones, the weight of the receiver in your hand and the hum of the dial tone felt like progress, like being connected to the whole world. And while the phone kept families connected, another daily tradition kept their tables full: the morning milk delivery. Every morning, the clink of glass bottles on the porch signaled the start of a new day. Fresh milk, delivered right to your doorstep. In the 1950s, milkmen in white uniforms drove trucks through neighborhoods, leaving bottles of fresh milk, cream, and sometimes butter. Homes had insulated boxes by the door to keep the bottles cool. For many families, the milkman was as familiar as the postman, and his visits were a comforting part of daily life. Before widespread refrigeration, regular deliveries meant fresh milk for cereal, coffee, and cooking. It wasn't just about food, it was about trust. The community relied on the milkman, and in many cases, children eagerly greeted him at the door. That simple act, stepping outside to find a row of bottles, still beaded with condensation, brought a sense of stability. It's a sound and a sight long gone, but for many, it remains one of the most nostalgic memories of post-war America. And while the milkman delivered to the doorstep, another innovation was spreading inside the home, one that turned kitchens into gathering places: the Tupperware party. Plastic bowls and burping lids may not sound revolutionary, but in the 1950s, they were the centerpiece of a social revolution: the Tupperware party. Invented by Earl Tupper in the 1940s, Tupperware became wildly popular in the post-war years. But it wasn't just the product, it was the sales method. Homemakers invited neighbors and friends into their living rooms to demonstrate the airtight burp seal of the containers. These gatherings turned kitchens into showrooms and ordinary women into entrepreneurs. For many women, Tupperware parties were more than social events. They were opportunities for income, independence, and community. They reflected the growing consumer culture of the 1950s while also empowering housewives to run businesses from home. For children, it was about sneaking cookies from those shiny new containers. For adults, it was about laughter, chatter, and the pride of owning something modern. A plastic bowl may seem small today, but in the 1950s, it symbolized convenience, progress, and possibility. And when the Tupperware party ended, families would gather around a far more magical box: the black and white television. Long before color screens and streaming, there was one glowing box in the living room. The black and white television transformed family life in America. In the early 1950s, fewer than 10% of homes had a TV. By the end of the decade, more than 80% did. Families huddled around sets to watch shows like I Love Lucy and The Ed Sullivan Show. The antenna, those rabbit ears perched on top, was constantly adjusted for a clearer picture. Television brought the outside world into the home. It shaped culture, spread fashion, and created shared national moments. For many, the first time they saw moving pictures in their living room was nothing short of magic. Children remember the excitement of Saturday morning cartoons, while parents recall the news anchors who became household names. For countless families, that flickering screen was more than entertainment. It was connection, laughter, and sometimes even hope. But before television ruled the living room, another piece of furniture had already claimed pride of place: the console radio. Tall, polished, and often beautifully crafted, the console radio wasn't just a device. It was a piece of furniture and the soundtrack of 1950s America. Radios had been central to American life since the 1920s, but in the 1950s they reached new heights. Console radios, often as big as cabinets, filled the home with music, drama shows, and live baseball broadcasts. Families gathered around them in the evenings just as they would later around the TV. Radios carried more than entertainment. They carried the voices of presidents, breaking news, and live coverage of world events. They were the center of the home long before televisions arrived, and in many households they remained just as important. For many, the sound of a crackling baseball game or the warm tone of a favorite announcer is forever tied to childhood. Radios weren't just speakers. They were companions, voices in the room when families needed them most. And while families listened to Sinatra on the radio, they gathered in kitchens decorated with a new symbol of post-war style: the Formica table. Pastel colors, chrome trim, and shiny laminate, Formica tables turned every kitchen into a modern showpiece. After World War II, America embraced new materials. Formica, a durable laminate, was perfect for kitchen tables. Often paired with vinyl chairs, these tables came in pinks, blues, and bright patterns, giving kitchens a splash of optimism. Formica tables were affordable, stylish, and easy to clean, perfect for families with children. They became the centerpiece of family meals, homework sessions, and neighborhood coffee chats. The sound of spoons clinking on cereal bowls, the sight of kids coloring on the shiny surface, or the feeling of cool laminate under your arms. These tables weren't just furniture. They were the stage for everyday life. And while the kitchen table held meals, another fixture in the yard held the laundry, the clothesline. Before dryers hummed in basements, clean laundry fluttered in the breeze on backyard clotheslines. Clotheslines were a fixture in nearly every 1950s home. Families hung sheets, shirts, and socks with wooden clothespins, letting the sun and wind do the drying. Neighbors' yards often looked like patchwork quilts of fabric swaying in the air. It was practical, economical, and reliable. Clotheslines saved electricity and gave garments the fresh scent of the outdoors. For many housewives, laundry day was as predictable as the sunrise. Children remember hiding in the cool folds of drying sheets or racing between lines. That smell, the crisp, sun-dried cotton, is something no modern dryer sheet can replicate. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.